All right, we will go ahead and get started. We'd like to welcome you to the Oregon State of Childcare webinar. This session is being recorded and offers live translation in Spanish, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and Russian. In order to access translation channels, click the language icon in the menu bar below and select your language of choice. Please note that participants are muted and the chat function is disabled, but we do invite you to use the Q&A feature for questions. The full report, presentation, and webinar recording in all provided languages will be available in the new year, and we really appreciate you for joining us. Give everyone a second to get set up. Okay, Gretchen is here. Hi, good to see you. Is that everyone? Grace or Ann, do we have everyone we need to continue?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Dr. Wade. Apologies.
Thank you all. Again, we're so glad you joined us. If there are any questions, please use the Q&A feature throughout the presentation. So in September and October, First Children's Finance administered the Child Care Business Sustainability Survey in Oregon. This survey is a national survey that has been administered in other states where FCF has a presence, but was tailored to be Oregon specific with questions about Oregon funding programs, our work over the last few years, and some hot topics we've identified in Oregon. So the purpose of this survey was to understand the financial and operational health of childcare businesses here through questions related to enrollment, staffing, facilities, expenses, sustainability, business practices, and support needs in 2023. So today we will walk through those sections of the survey and share our analysis and findings. So this is an overview of the survey respondents. We were able to directly contact all registered and certified family child care and child care center operators. Of the 3,200 providers contacted, we received over 600 responses, with 378 responses being included in the analysis because those providers completed the consent and screening, which confirmed they are responsible for financial and operational oversight of their child care program. 11.8% was the response rate, and we did compensate for this survey as well. So you can see here the response rates across the license types, over 10% across all license types, and with over 15% of certified family providers responding. So the response rate listed is by total providers contacted, not license type representation in survey results. So here's a little bit of a breakdown of that 378. 26.7% were certified centers, 39.68% were certified family, and 33.6% were registered family. Okay, so again, over 3,200 providers were contacted. So you can see here the representation across counties as well as responses by preferred language. This table is identifying response rates by county, not overall county representation in survey results. So it's saying of the providers in the county, how many of them responded to the survey? For example, in Grant County, there were 4 child care providers contacted and 1 responded, resulting in a 25% response rate for Grant County. In the report, we also report on total county representation in the survey and the proportionality of that representation compared to provider distribution across the state. So overall, the survey does capture responses from a broad range of counties with alignment to the state's provider distribution, but we do plan for future efforts to include additional outreach to ensure even greater participation in those underrepresented counties. So let's go on to a little bit of demographic information. Most survey respondents were women, making up 92% of the total, actually. Over 50% of providers were aged 40 to 54, while about 23% were between 25 and 39. And another 23% were 55 or older. About 25% of providers are from racial and ethnic minority groups, while 65% identify as white. These demographics are similar across different types of licenses. Most childcare business owners have some college education, which shows the increased professionalization of our field. The childcare industry includes both experienced providers and newcomers, which is always a good thing. Many businesses have been operating for over 10 years. However, 18% of participants have been in business for 2 years or less. 28% of registered families participating in the survey have been in operation for 2 years or less. This shows that recent state efforts have encouraged new people to enter the field. It's important to support the sustainability of these new providers. So we also see that 25% of certified centers have been in business for 31 years or more. So kudos to them. But certified family providers tend to have more experience on average. This variety in experience levels among childcare providers means that they are all at different stages of running their businesses, and acknowledging these differences will help us and other partners provide better support by knowing who we are serving. Let's talk a little bit about enrollment. This year's survey shows that 43% of providers have stable enrollment, while 32% report an increase, or 25% experience a decline in enrollment. So we analyzed the enrollment data against ages of children in care, registered and family who care for at least one infant generally see stronger enrollment and with either increased or steady numbers. However, centers that care for at least one infant tend to have weaker enrollment compared to those that do not provide infant care. So this shows that possibly more benefits for family childcare providers versus centers in providing infant care. So here we are seeing some of the open responses from providers when asked how enrollment changed in 2023. So we took a little journey back to get this information. We identified several themes about enrollment changes, including public funding challenges, expansion, and enrollment declines. So some providers talked about challenges with public funding, identifying competition with free programs or public funding. For example, here we have someone that said, I have lost the age group of 3 years old since preschool allows different public funding for preschool allows 3 and 4-year-olds for free. To give you a chance to look at the rest of those. Then we'll talk a little bit about expansion. Others mentioned how they expanded to meet the needs of their communities, which is always important that our childcare businesses are prioritizing the needs of the community first, often over their own, unfortunately. So next, we'll look at enrollment declines, because unfortunately, others face that in their operations. So the changing enrollment trends show that childcare sector is evolving. Providers are trying to adapt to new family needs, economic challenges, and competition from other programs. But as you'll see in the next slide, many still have open slots. Give you a chance to read some of these. Okay. So this slide shows that providers reported about how many open slots they had by age. So we talk later about open slots that are unfilled specifically due to not having staffing. But here we are seeing slots that could be filled but remain open due to factors other than workforce and staffing. So the survey respondents reported over 2,400 total open slots that could be filled without hiring additional staff. So in the graph here, you see the breakdown of the distribution of open slots by license type. For example, registered family has 35% of their open slots for school-age children, while certified family reported less than 15% of their open slots are for school-age children, and over 45% are open slots for preschoolers. So if we think about that total of 2,400 open slots, 9% are infant slots, 16% are toddler slots, and 39% are preschool slots. And last but not least, 36% are school age slots. So let's talk about staffing, since there's open slots that can be filled without hiring. Almost half of providers reported that they were able to maintain the staffing levels required. About 30% were able to keep their staffing levels even higher than what was required, which kudos to them. However, 25% of providers had trouble maintaining the needed staffing levels, which led some to use overtime or employ flexible staff options. Lastly, 4% of providers laid off staff during the year. So of that, we see that 54% reported at least one open teaching position, which would be a teacher or an assistant or a caregiver. About 25% reported at least one open leadership position, such as a director or assistant director or provider. And then 17% reported at least one non-teaching position that was open, which would be a front office or cook or something of that nature, which is very important to keep a childcare business running successfully. So we also saw that over 2/3 of respondents, about 69%, said hiring qualified employees was either very difficult or somewhat difficult. Of the certified centers, about 81% were significantly more likely to report challenges compared to certified or registered family providers, where 51% faced similar difficulties. In a previous slide, we saw data around open slots. Here we are seeing the data around how many slots were reported as being unfilled, specifically due to lack of staff. Here you can see the average number of slots unfilled by age range and license type. So in order to attract and keep staff, many providers introduced new benefits in 2023, which is always a great sign. The most common benefits offered were increased hourly wages, about 73.7%, and paid time off, about 76.6%. They also offered flexible scheduling and discounted childcare, flexible scheduling at 58.9% and discounted childcare at 64%. These actions show a proactive effort to improve work conditions and support that staff retention that seems to be an issue. Hiring bonuses were about 9.1%, and employee bonuses, about 30%, were the least frequently offered. So, however, and despite these steps, only 32% of providers feel confident they will maintain these higher costs. So here you can also take a look at the open responses. Someone says, I am working on increasing the tuition, but I'm not able to break even. My sustainability is at stake. And then the last bullet point here, we have given good pay to all of our staff, but not sure how it works in terms of cost versus enrollment due to the constraint of our center's floor plan that limits efficiency. So we think about that, we can go on and talk about facilities. Nearly half of providers indicated they had a facility maintenance repair they chose to delay fixing. We'll talk about choosing in a second. Of the total survey respondents, 41% of centers, 63% of certified family homes, and 36% of registered family homes reported deferring maintenance. Of the providers who delayed repairs, the majority cited financial constraints as the primary reason. Open-ended responses revealed a consistent theme of limited funds for essential repairs, with responses like cost, lack of funds, and financial strain appearing very frequently. Many providers indicated that they had to prioritize funds for immediate needs, such as food and emergency expenses, rather than facility upgrades or repairs. So we ask, is that really a choice? Ownership of childcare spaces also plays a role in maintenance challenges. 63% of respondents reported owning their home or facility, while 37% rented or leased, which we know here presents some challenges. So let's talk about expenses. Here you will see the results of questions asking how expenses changed during 2023. And notably here, even visually, is that there were modest or significant increases across all categories. As you can see, some of the most significant cost increases for businesses were supplies and learning materials, with more of a mixed response related to payroll or rent and mortgage increases. So the recent ban on suspension and expulsion has amplified concerns about managing liability insurance for childcare providers. 41% are worried about rising insurance costs. 31% are concerned about the availability of liability insurance. 21% fear policy cancellations. And open provider responses highlight significant increases in premiums, difficulty finding coverage, and limited insurance options for home-based childcare businesses. And we know that there's a stigma often attached to home-based businesses, and so we want to address those as well. So some folks did not even know this was a thing, and so that's the importance of surveys, that we get information that we didn't intend to get. So someone said, I cannot even get companies to call me back to purchase insurance. Insurance agencies don't offer 24/7 protection anymore. And someone didn't know that this was something that they should be concerned about. So let's talk about sustainability. First, we'll talk about financial sustainability. Childcare providers face financial challenges in 2023 due to rising costs and limited funding. As a result, nearly 70% of providers raised tuition rates this year. Additionally, 39% of them plan to increase rates by 5% or more in 2024. More registered family child care home providers indicated that their business stability, was similar to last year, with 63% feeling this way compared to 54% of centers and 47% of certified family child care providers. Additionally, a larger percentage of centers reported being more stable than in the previous year, with 24% of centers expressing this sentiment compared to 22% of certified family child care providers and only 11% of registered family child care providers. And as a reminder, you can drop your comments in the Q&A or your questions in the Q&A in the chat. Let's talk about household income. When asked if their household income has been impacted by financial losses to their business, nearly 50% of providers responded that it had been impacted. And we're talking about their household income and the financial losses. On a later slide, we are able to see some of the financial decisions that have been made by providers, which identifies how household income and savings have been impacted. And you can see those things emerging in the open responses here. Providers cite reducing their own wages to support their staff, not taking a salary to cover operating expenses, and pulling from personal savings or leaning on personal equity to cover costs. Give you a second to read those open responses. So here we'll talk about enrollment, tuition, and cost decisions. We're able to see the actions providers reported taking to manage their businesses. Nearly 70% reported increasing tuition rates. 60% of childcare providers plan to increase tuition in 2024. Many are choosing modest increases or no changes to avoid burdening families, which is a very caring thing to do, but very hard when you're trying to run a sustainable business. So some of those tuition plans for 2024, centers plan to raise the rate by 5%. or less. Excuse me. More than 5% plan to raise by 31%, and no change for 13% of those. For registered family care, plan to raise those rates by 5% or less, 26%, 26% or more. And then certified family care plan to raise those rates by 5% or less, or 38%, or more than 5%, which is about 19% of those. And some of them say that there will be no change, which is about 43%. So when we talk about financial decisions, we asked if providers took any of the listed actions to manage their businesses. You'll see the most widely reported actions taken were about either not paying themselves or dipping into emergency funds or savings to help sustain their business. 44% of providers reported being unable to pay themselves at times, which is extremely unfortunate. And over a third of providers reported using business emergency funds to cover costs, as well as personal and retirement funds, or accessing high interest financing. So here we see some additional perspectives gauging agreement or disagreement with the statements listed. So here we see 60% of providers reported feeling optimistic about the future of their business, but over 80% of providers agree or strongly agree that the childcare industry is in crisis. Through analysis, we can infer some possible contributing factors. In the third statement here, you see over 65% of providers do not believe the childcare workforce is being paid fairly. Additionally, when asked about plans to sell or close in the next 12 months, the majority of providers reported they strongly disagreed that they plan to sell or close in the next 12 months due to either retirement or financial limitations, reflecting optimism about continued operations. Fewer than 4% of providers reported plans to sell or close in the next 12 months due to retirement, while 11% reported plans to sell or close in the next 12 months due to financial limitations. We asked providers which funding programs they participated in, and 57.1% of respondents did not access public funding in 2023. When asked to explain why they did not access public funding, 46% reported they applied but were not selected, which we also have heard from providers in our startup focus groups. Additionally, 41% of providers who are not participating in public funding reported their business did not qualify for public funding. So let's go and talk about business practices and support needs. Over 60% of providers reported agreeing or strongly agreeing that they have access to business supports. I think this is probably a testament to the work being done across the state to provide business supports at regional and statewide levels. When asked specifically about types of supports that would be beneficial for their businesses, 68% of respondents reported facility improvement grants would be beneficial to their business. 52% of providers reported that support in accessing public funding would be beneficial. So this slide specifically is a great example of how we can use the survey results and some of the reported needs to inform the supports and services provided to childcare businesses. So there was a lot of great information. And as a reminder, this webinar, the slides, and the full report will all be available in the First Children's Finance website in the coming weeks, translated into Spanish, Russian, Vietnamese, and Chinese. And data from this survey will be used to help inform the services provided to childcare business owners across the state. Additionally, the report will include recommendations to the state on how to better support childcare businesses based on the analysis, findings, and what has been directly reported from childcare business owners, which is really important that we give voice to the very dedicated and intentional and hard work of our childcare businesses. This survey is intended to be repeated annually to be able to observe trends in financial and operational health of businesses over time. And the survey will be repeated in spring 2025. So if you didn't get a chance to participate, this will be your chance. collecting data about operations for calendar year 2024. Also, we would love for you to join us for our trainings in our business leadership cohorts, which you can find on our website. And here's some information for you all before I take the slides down and do a little bit of Q&A. If you have questions about the state office and our trainings, you can contact us here. And if you have questions specifically about the survey, you can contact Tasia. We appreciate everyone that participated, gave such robust feedback, and we appreciate all of you for being here. Thank you.